Good debt versus bad debt. All right, when it comes to debt, the first thing that you have to understand is this fact. When you take out debt, you are quite literally agreeing to be in servitude to somebody else. What do I mean by that? Well, if I decide to take on some debt, I have to pay that back. And how am I going to pay that back? I have to work. And when I work, that steals time, hours, and energy away from my life. So, understanding that anytime you take out debt, you are agreeing to servitude, and that servitude means hours, time, and energy from your life to pay it back. This is a huge paradigm shift that I think our society absolutely needs. Debt is servitude. All right, so as a whole, good debt versus bad debt. Bad debt is typically on stuff that is not an appreciating asset, things that are depreciating, or things that necessarily aren't real assets at all. So things like credit card debt, those things likely aren't going to be very good. One, they're going to have super high interest rates, and they're not helping you leverage anything that is going up in value. Where a house, on the other hand, that increases in value in most economic situations. So as a result, the interest rates that you can get on it are a lot lower, and the value of that asset is increasing. So there's some leverage there that goes into your favor. So good debt versus bad debt as a whole, if it's an appreciating asset, it could be considered as good debt. That said, when you're purchasing a house or when you're really doing any type of debt decision, you have to really understand these two things. You really got to have these two filters. The first filter is, am I using this debt because I'm just impatient? I want to buy things now. Don't make impatient purchase decisions, especially gigantic purchase decisions, especially ones that have debt involved. Those are ones that can be lethal to your personal financial situation. We've mentioned before that debt is dangerous. Debt is like fire. It can burn you if you're holding it, but if you contain it and it's handled correctly, it can power a car. So yeah, debt, it can be dangerous, but if done wisely, it can really be helpful to you. Again, don't do this if you're being impatient or you just want to buy something now. That should be a filter. But then also, you shouldn't be taking on debt and agreeing to a servitude that's going to dramatically impact your living. Is it going to dramatically impact your ability to buy other things like food or different vacations or whatever else is in your lifestyle? One really great kind of litmus test for this is this debt going to impact my ability to be generous? If you're unable to be as generous as you want to be, or you cannot be as generous as you used to be because of this debt, it's likely going to be bad debt for you. Student loans, this is something that people get questions about a lot. It's kind of a hot button topic in our society right now because going to school is really expensive. So should you be obtaining student loan? Well, there's actually a mathematical formula for this. Really, what you should be doing is comparing your potential future earnings based on the degree that you're getting against the total amount of debt and the debt payment you will have when you get out of school. All too often, people do not count that cost. They just go straight into school, take on way too much debt, and the next thing you know, their job does not even help them make the debt payments on that student loan. Compare your future earnings against the future payment you might have on that student loan debt. And lastly, cars. Is it okay to get a car loan? Now remember, at the beginning we said you typically do not want to take out debt against an asset that is depreciating. We know cars as a whole are a depreciating asset. So, rule of thumb, loans on cars are typically a bad idea. That said, there can be situations where obtaining a loan on a car might be right for you. Again, another rule of thumb would have to do with the interest rate. If it's a really high interest rate on the car, obviously no. And if it's a lower interest rate based on some rebate or some thing that the manufacturer is doing, it could be good for you. But let's go through our filters again. Are you wanting to take on this debt to buy this car just because you're impatient and you want something really nice? And is the servitude that you're agreeing to, the debt payment on this car, is it going to impact your living? Is it going to impact your ability to be as generous as you want to be? Those are two filters that can help you understand if the car debt is good or bad for you. All right, so in summary, how can you tell if debt is good or bad for you? As we always say, personal finances should be personal, and there's no generalized video that's going to answer every question. But first, you have to understand that when you take on debt, you're agreeing to servitude. You have to count those costs, count those payments. The way you do that is you go through these filters. Am I buying this because I'm being impatient and I just want it now? If so, don't take on the debt. And the other one is, how is it going to impact my way of living? Is this going to dramatically impact things for the worse? And am I going to be able to be as generous as I want? If you're not, you probably shouldn't take on the debt. And then, as a whole, is this debt on an appreciating asset or something that's depreciating? Something that's appreciating, you can consider it. Something that's depreciating, you probably shouldn't. We did another YouTube video on debt is not dumb and cash is not king. There is this statement or this phrase that Dave Ramsey has made very famous. He says it typically at the beginning of every one of his shows. He says debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid off house is replacing the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I actually did a whole video about why I disagree with that and why it's important to have the right mindset when it comes to debt. Go ahead and check out that video. We'll link to it in the description. Thanks for watching this video. Please click subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified about all the new content that we're releasing. We will promise to be giving you videos at least once a week. And if you'd like to watch another video by us, click down here.